Okay, we're live.
Awesome. Love to be live. Welcome, everybody, to the Pistons Talk podcast on YouTube. I'm your host, Lance Caprosi. Follow me on Twitter at Lance Caprosi. I swear to you guys, I'm worth it. Ask all 873 people that follow me. My co-host is Anthony. You can follow him on all social media platforms at Pistons Talk if you haven't already. He started the brand. I hitched my wagon to it. All right, man, let's get this started.
For sure.
So the Warriors owner, Joe Lacob, I thought this was an awesome quote. And I know we're not giving you the full quote, but he says, we might very well regret that one, talking about James Wiseman. Longer term or even intermediate term. I think James is a really good young player, and we're not going to get many opportunities to draft a young guy like that again. Didn't he also go on to say, like, what else did he say? That it was partially James Wiseman's fault for not succeeding in Golden State?
Yeah, he did. He's like, it was our fault and also his fault for not being like available because of injury. But like I said, I did read that full Athletic article. It was a Q&A. Their Warriors beat reporter, I think Anthony Slater it is, sat down with him and kind of asked him about like the state of the team. Do you regret, trading for Gary Payton? And kind of like where he was at, and like from a standpoint, he's like kind of thinking of in the back of his head, like, I really like James Wiseman. This was really hard for me to trade him.
I don't know. Do you think they end up regretting it though? Like even long term, like let's just say, I don't know, the dynasty's over for the Warriors. Who knows how far they go in the playoffs? Let's just say they're going to retool in the offseason. You would love to have a former second overall pick. I don't know what you have to do. Like, I mean, did it really feel like they had to change their offense in their schemes that much to have James Wiseman fit? Like, I feel like James Wiseman has a pretty good skill set from what we've seen in just a short amount of time. But I don't know. It kind of blows my mind that it didn't work out for him in Golden State. It seems like the perfect place for a young athletic big to thrive in, but, it didn't.
I mean, I feel like every player can fit a system. It just depends if that player is willing to sacrifice a role. And I don't know if James Wiseman, like he didn't really play a lot, right? Like,
Yeah.
he played a little bit in college. I think he played a couple games his rookie year. Then he got hurt. And then he played some G League action this year. And then, they flip him. I think what they like more is a Kevon Looney type, kind of just like a scrappy guy. And like, I think James Wiseman would be capable to kind of play within that Kevon Looney role if the Warriors wanted him to, but I just don't think they were patient enough. I think when they saw an opportunity to get one of their best defenders that I'm sorry, man, like Gary Payton was very responsible for their last championship. Gary Payton was a lockdown defender. And I think when they saw that, it's like, we got to go. Like, we got to trade for this guy because defensively right now we suck. I don't know if their dynasty's over. It's really hard to count out Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green.
For sure.
They got young guys like Jordan Poole on the rise. I mean, they still have Jonathan Kuminga. They still have Moses Moody. They have some young pieces. They have some vets. Like I said, if they get everyone back in time, like they get Iguodala back, they get Wiggins back after whatever he's going through for some personal reasons, they could run the table again. You never know.
So you have guys like Jonathan Kuminga, who the last 4 or 5 games, he's played pretty well for the Warriors. I think he's averaging like 14 and 6 with maybe a block and a steal in the absence of Andrew Wiggins. But why is it guys like him can thrive and build on something in Golden State, but a talented guy like James Wiseman can't figure it out? Does it really come down more to fit with James Wiseman or just more of he didn't want to accept a lesser role? What do you think it is? Because I think it comes down to his attitude, like not wanting to fit a role for them, not wanting to be that Kevon Looney type, especially if you're drafted second overall. You probably come into the league where you're like, cool, I'm going to be the franchise guy. Like, I don't want to play a lesser role. You drafted me this high for a reason. But what do you think it was more about? Like his attitude, his role, or just team fit? Because young guys do fit in Golden State. Jordan Poole, I mean, he just got a huge contract from him. He's looked good in their system.
Yeah. To your question, I think it was just a fit thing. I don't think it's his attitude.
Okay.
Because since he's come to Detroit, he's been so positive. He's, been asked to, come into an offense. And even though last night he didn't do a whole lot, recently. He's been playing really well next to Marvin Bagley or Isaiah Stewart. Um, I don't think he has an attitude problem of trying to fit a role. I think it was more of a Golden State thing and their development. When you have a guy that athletic, that nimble, able to rim run, and show a little bit of defensive flashes here and there, I look more at the coaching staff than I look at James Wiseman because he was taken second overall for a reason.
True.
And they just couldn't figure it out. I want to give Chuck Brewer a shout out. He had an excellent comment if you guys are watching live on YouTube or Facebook. He said Poole even had to spend time in the G League. And he's right. He spent a lot of time in the G League.
True.
Like a lot. Like he wasn't this, 40% 3-point shooter. It took him a lot of time in Santa Cruz before it became one of those shooters. And you mentioned he got the bag this summer. So I think we can point to Golden State's development isn't on par with other teams in the NBA. And I think if you're a Piston fan listening to this, I think it's actually a blessing in disguise because if this guy develops into, I don't know, even 50% of the player we think he could be, you have a starting center for quite a long time. And a guy he moves so fast for being a 7-footer. Sometimes, like when he runs, I was like, dude, he should not be able to run that fast.
Yeah.
Like, dude, he runs like a gazelle out there, man. I was like, holy crap, this guy, wow.
The play last night that just blew my mind was the block. And then as soon as he got the block, because there's a lot of big men. This is the thing I was the most impressed by, because there's a lot of big men that get that block and they're like, dude, my job is done. But James Wiseman, I forget who he got the block on, but then he just took off in a dead sprint. He was leading the pack with RJ Hampton bringing it up. And I think it was actually Marvin Bagley trailing behind both of those guys. You cannot – I'm so excited for James Wiseman in Detroit, man. I'm just so excited because just that little play just kind of showed it all for me, where I'm like you're right. If this guy can just put half of it together, just, 50% of what you were saying, like the player we think he can be, he's dangerous. He's special, even at 50% reaching of his potential. He's a very special player. And I think that play showed it. But I don't know, man. It just seems kind of crazy that the Warriors messed it up so bad. They were gifted the second overall pick and they whiffed, man. They swung for the fences and they whiffed. And you're right. It's a blessing in disguise for Detroit, but kind of sucks for the Warriors.
Kind of reminded me of, because obviously Joe Lacob's the owner of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of Tom Gores a little bit with Andre Drummond. Of kind of like their relationship. I'm not saying that, Joe Lacob was as close with Andre Drummond as Tom Gores was, but reading that article, he said it was really tough. He's like, I did not want to trade the guy. And it kind of reminded me of that aspect of like a owner-player relationship where he thought, this guy, second overall pick, he could be really good for us when, we're not competing for the playoffs, and he could be a building block. But I mean, the more I read that article, I was just like, you know what? He's just in the win now mode. He's just like, this could come back to bite us in the short term or the intermediate. We'll just have to wait and see. And he says he still watches James Wiseman. He tunes in the Pistons games to watch to see how James Wiseman is doing.
Dude,
so that's how invested he is in this guy. And I was just like, man, like you traded your guy and you're watching Pistons games to see how he's doing.
But if you're an owner and you just traded the former second overall pick, there's probably a small piece of you were like, dude, I just hope he fails. Like, I hope that when I traded him, like, he doesn't become the thing we all think he can become, because I don't want to look like the fool that got rid of the guy. I'm not saying that's what Joe Lacob is. I'm just saying, me personally, if I was Joe Lacob, there would be a little pettiness to that.
Yeah, I mean, if he starts going off, he's probably just showing his GM and his, president of basketball operations, like, look at that.
Yep. Couldn't have figured it out. It's crazy. So let's talk about the Pistons here for a second.
For sure.
Do you think Coach Casey has been too patient with the young guy? Shout out to Brooks for tweeting this at me last night. I thought it was a pretty fair question. I don't think Coach Casey has been. I mean, you have to be patient with young players no matter what. I think Coach Casey, I don't want to get into the coaching things, but I do feel like attitude-wise, he's probably like the best coach I think of him as like a dad to like young kids. Like he has that level of patience you need. So I think he's done a great job. in terms of being patient with young guys. There's obviously some moments like what happened on Chris Webber's birthday with the timeout called when there wasn't one called and you saw his reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Coach Casey has been patient enough with the young guys. I feel like he's given them all a long leash at times, but then also he has sat them on the bench and talked to them about why, he's not playing them or, why he pulled them. Like, obviously, I don't know if he has done that, but I would think a coach would, especially with a younger team. But what about you? Do you think he's been too patient with the young guys?
Yeah, like when I saw this, I was just like, too patient. Like, do fans want us to win? Do they want us to push for the playoffs? Like, because when I saw it, I was like, what do you mean too patient? But now that you explained it a little bit, I'm like, I think what you said is, the out of bounds play, obviously, Jaden Ivy made a mistake. And I think those are the type of learning mistakes that you need to have if you're a young rebuilding team. I would like to see longer leashes with the younger guys. And I do understand he likes to have veterans out there, whether it's Ronnie Magruder, Alec Burks, Corey Joseph at times. But I think some fans, when they look at Dwayne Casey, they don't understand why he's not giving all the young guys all the minutes. And I just don't think that'll ever happen with Dwayne Casey as long as he's here. And that's not a shot at him. I just think he believes in his mind is if I have a veteran out there to kind of be out there and I don't want to say babysit, but that's basically what they're doing, making sure they don't make like huge mental errors. I think that he's been fair with them, like you said, when they make a really bad play, they're on the bench. But they do get to make learning mistakes. It's not like when Van Gundy was here and if Stanley Johnson made one defensive miss up, he's on the bench for 3 quarters. There's a way longer leash here. But like I said, I know a lot of fans are so anti-Casey right now. They have their pitchforks out. Yep. Anytime you mention his name, like I've literally muted the words fire, Dwayne Casey, head coach, like on Twitter, because I'm just sick of having like the discussions because it's just like, what's the point of just having this discussion every day? Because you're miserable. I'm getting annoyed. I just don't care anymore.
Yep. But it's funny though too, because like we're talking about like a coach, and there's not a lot of coaches in the NBA that give young guys like the leash that Coach Casey has. I mean, there were moments earlier in the season where we did question where you're like, okay, why are you playing Kojo 20 plus minutes when Jaden Ivey's sitting on the bench? I like to think it's one of those moments where even though Jaden Ivey's sitting on the bench, he's still being coached. Like he's watching the game. There's an assistant or Coach Casey in his ear talking to him, breaking it down and just showing him like, hey, this is what we want. We want you to look for. Like, I would like to think that's happening from the bench. I just don't like, I would like to think that Coach Casey's a little bit more competent than we think he is. So I think he's done a good job with the young guys. I mean, Jaden Ivey is probably an all rookie first team player this season. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Duran's looked good. I mean, some of the other young guys have looked good. We can name. I think he's definitely been patient enough with the young guys, and I think he's done a decent enough job. Like, I would hate to go back to the Stan Van Gundy era where you were right. Like Stanley Johnson made one mistake and it gets in your own head. Like you can't play perfect basketball. So to have a coach allow you to play through those mistakes, I think that's a very good thing to have, even if we're losing.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand where fans are frustrated with Dwayne Casey and just the organization as a whole. I mean, you've looked over the past 15 years, it's, kind of teams that they thought were going to be playoff contenders. They were 8 seeds. You overpaid for free agents. You've made multiple draft misses. You see guys like Donovan Mitchell and Tyrese Halliburton balling out, and you just get frustrated as a fan. And I understand that. You have every reason to be frustrated because what I will say with a lot of Pistons fans is they're very intelligent in terms of seeing what's on the floor. And they know, they're like, you know what, this isn't acceptable, man. Like, we have 3 championships. Some teams don't even have 1. Like, we have this pedigree and we want to be back in the playoffs. We want to be competing. We want to be having fun. Like, they probably want to be like the New York Knicks, like New York Knicks right now are one of the hottest teams in basketball. And like, we are on pace to win 60 games over the last 3 seasons.
Gosh.
And it's rough, man. Like, I get it. When you don't have any assets to trade during a rebuild, it's going to take even longer. Like it could take another maybe year, 2 years, depending on like what even happens in the draft and free agency. You never know.
Oh man. Oh man. Let's hope we get to 20 wins next season. That's all I'm asking for right now. Just give me 20 wins at this time next year. Let's have 20 wins. That's all I want. Hamidou Diallo's stock is rising and he deserves a raise. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. He's gonna get paid. Probably not a ton of money. I'm not saying he's a 20 million a year guy, but I think this is a guy that's probably going to get somewhere at least 8 million a season, right? Like 8 to 10. That's what I'm saying Hamidou's price range is. Because I think this role he's in right now as an energy, I'm going to call him an energy big. He's a big right now. He plays big. The way he's cutting and making dives to the basket, he looks like Travis Kelce in the Kansas City Chiefs offense, just finding holes in the defense to give his quarterback a lane to throw in. Like he does that. Like he's so good at finding those holes in the defense, whether he's cutting on the baseline or coming off the wing. It's incredible. I think Hamid gets paid $8 to $10 million per year. I think is fair for an energy guy like Diallo that can't shoot outside 15 feet. But what about you, Anthony? What would you pay Hamid Diallo in free agency?
I think for me, my breaking point would be 6 to 7 million.
Man,
And that's not a slight at him. Here's my thing. I think the Pistons could actually offer him exactly what they offered him in his last contract. You know, maybe you do 11, 12 million for 2 years. I think he's valuable, but I think this is where a lot of Pistons fans get tunnel vision with their players. Hamidou Diallo, great cutter, best cutter on the team. I think he's finishing close to 60% at the rim. To me, I think he's an undersized power forward. Oh, yeah. Because he's 6'5", he can finish around the rim, but I'm not going to break the bank to keep him. I'm just not. Like, would you say 15 million?
No, I said 8 to 10. Come on.
Oh, 8 to 10. Even then, like that's kind of like my breaking point. I'm like, I like him, but I don't like him at that price point. I think 6 to 7 is fair. I just don't see a lot of contenders lining up to sign him just because, like you said, he's not a shooter. And I think in today's NBA, I think there's room for him. But if you can't even have a perimeter shot, most contending teams or even teams that are kind of like in the middle of the pack aren't going to break the bank to keep him. And I don't really think the Pistons have to break the bank to keep him. If they want to bring him back, I'd love to have him back, but I think a $6 to $7 million price point would probably be my breaking point, but maybe I'm just being cheap.
Well, I said 8 to 10 million. Part of it is because I believe the cap is supposed to go up, right? So like 8 to 10 million is a smaller percentage of what it would have been even this past season, I believe. So I don't know, like maybe 10 million's a little high. I could be talked down from that number. I thought 8 million. I think that's more fair because you're right. If he had a corner 3-point shot, he'd be a little bit more valuable. He'd be way more valuable. But I love his energy. I love the way he plays. And I do believe guys like that can make a role for themselves on a contending team. I mean, he's not going to play big minutes. Like if he's in that 17 to 20 minute range and just providing energy and like, I don't know, getting some key rebounds, making a steal, there's value in that. I mean, he had double figure points last night, I believe in the first half. You know, it's not a lot, but I mean, he's understanding his skill set and getting the most out of it. And I think that's worth something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's valuable. It's just, I kind of look at the way the team's constructed, and this isn't his fault. I just think they need 3-and-D wings, and he just kind of he doesn't give you any threes. He gives you some defense. I mean, now he gives you defense, but last year he wasn't giving the Pistons any defense. That's why Josh Jackson beat him in the rotation.
Yeah, he gambled a lot last year
because Josh Jackson was a better defender. But like I said, he's grown a lot. I know this is, one of Troy Weaver's draft picks, and that's why he's here, because Troy trusts him. But I think if this team is competing, you have to ask yourself, is Hamidou Diallo still on this team? Is he just a rebuilding player just to kind of get you through the tough times? Can you see Hamidou Diallo on a championship or a playoff contending team on the Detroit Pistons? And I don't know.
Well, I guess it would be like, what do you think his role would be like? It'd be like a 9th to 10th man. Like if he's your 9th to 10th man, I don't know. I think your team's still pretty competitive. If he was in that Rodney McGruder spot, the team's way more talented, right? if he's buried further on the bench. And I think, because I don't know if Rodney McGruder is a better basketball player than Diallo.
They play different roles in different positions, but I think he's valuable. It's just, I think sometimes Pistons fans, we all think our players are worth like 2 first-round picks, right? And that's okay. We love our team. We think every guy is a superstar. But I think at his ceiling, he's maybe a 6th or 7th man off the bench that is a really good cutter, really aggressive at taking it to the basket. But his biggest weakness is jump shooting.
Yep.
And I don't know if he can develop it. If he can, like you said, I would have no problems if he had a consistent league average jump shot. I'd give him 8 to 10 million all day, but he doesn't. And I think when you're an offensive, 3-point driven league, you're going to need guys. Every guy in your team needs to be able to hit a 3-point shot.
That's fair. That is definitely fair. I agree with that. I don't know. There's just something about Hami where it's like he'd be a guy that I would hate to lose for cheap. I just love his energy that he plays with. I love the role that he's found himself in, and I don't know. There's just something about it for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, he's the energy guy off the bench, but like I said, we got 15 wins.
Yeah, definitely.
That's not his fault, but it's just like that's a whole other like topic in the conversation. Like, can you see him on this team when the Pistons are pushing for the playoffs? And like I said, I just don't know. I believe I saw that from a James Edwards tweet when they were doing a Q&A mailbag, and I believe Keith Black like asked that question, and like I've thought about it. I was like, I just don't know. Like, he's talented, good cutter, aggressive. Feels like he's got a highlight dunk every other game, but it's like I don't know if he would be on this team if we're trying to push for the playoffs.
That's fair. And I think that's another topic later on down the line, maybe even this offseason that we get into. But
for sure.
Let's move on to some news. So this is some big news, going to shock a few people, probably even disappoint a few people because we know how valuable he was in our front office. But Josh Bartelstein was hired by the Phoenix Suns as the new CEO. And I have no idea what that means in terms of a basketball organization. Is he just there to get money? Is that what he wants to do? Just make it more profitable? I don't know what they do.
So what you have to learn about Josh Bartelstein is before he did get promoted to assistant GM, he was actually a SVP with Arntellum. And Arntellum is in our front office is like more of a business side. You don't really see him or hear him. You might see him at a press conference introducing the draft players. So he's going to take more of a business role over with the Phoenix Suns. And I'm not really surprised by this because you look at Bartelstein. He was a former Michigan player. And the Phoenix Suns had just got bought out by Matt Ishbia, who played at Michigan State and is a Michigan State alum. So not really surprised. They've probably known each other for years. And, I'm really happy for him because it's such a great opportunity. I mean, he's been around the Pistons since, the early stages of the Stan Van Gundy era, worked his way up. And now the Pistons have, to fill some assistant GM roles because don't know if Rob Murphy's even with the team anymore. And now Bartelstein is no longer with the team. So sounds like Troy's been doing everything by himself.
So do you see the Phoenix Suns and the Detroit Pistons making some trades down the line?
I could see it, especially with him being more involved. Obviously, I believe, I forget who their GM is.
I think James Jones, isn't it?
Yeah, James Jones. I know like he was a really big part of, getting Kevin Durant, but I think Phoenix probably won't make any trades for a while just to kind of see like where they're at. But I mean, maybe down the line, if it doesn't work and they have to blow it up like Brooklyn, maybe Devin Booker comes home.
Well, okay. So I was about to bring that up. So when this news broke, I saw some comments that they were saying like, oh, Kevin Durant, he might be a Piston in the future. Some people were comparing him to Rasheed Wallace coming to Detroit, like being that veteran guy that can draw the double team and take us over the top. I don't know if Kevin Durant is coming to Detroit. I mean, it's nice. Let's all manifest it. Let's think about it. But I don't really know how much these moves make in terms of like GMs coming together to actually form trades. You know, I don't know what that means. I mean, like, it's a great networking tool, but I mean, you're already in the NBA. Like, if Troy Weaver wants to make a call with the Phoenix Suns or make a trade with them, he's just going to call them up and they're probably going to pick up the phone and listen.
Yeah, I mean, this is such like a nerd topic. Like, unless like you're a diehard fan, you don't even know who Josh Burlstein is. Like I said, he's been around since the Van Gundy era, and he's worked his way up. I mean, he was doing business side, and then he did more of day-to-day operations with Troy Weaver as an assistant GM. I'm happy for him. Great opportunity, and it's good to see guys that have worked their way up the corporate ladder, getting like a huge opportunity to be the CEO of the Phoenix Suns. So I'm sure they'll do good things out in Phoenix. But to your comment about KD, I wouldn't even put KD in the same like category as Rasheed Wallace, because Rasheed Wallace doesn't show up to teams when they're already pre-built.
Oh, nice shot right there. I hope you clip that and put that out there.
Like literally, man. Kevin Durant is like one of those guys that just like puts their name on the group project. And then this just shows up, man. Like, come on.
That's perfect. This is a piece of news too that's it's gonna disappoint a lot of people for sure. Like, I was joking about the first piece of news, but this news will. Little Caesars Arena has decided not to build an Isaiah Thomas statue. This comes from Woodward Sports, and what the fuck, dude? Dude, he's the greatest player. 2 champions, 3 finals appearances. Just, you can't say enough about Isaiah Thomas, and you're not. What is up with Detroit and not wanting to honor these legends? I don't get it. Like, what was the reason for them not building the Isaiah Thomas statue?
Well, I got to give a shout out to Terry Foster, longtime legend. He actually did break the news on what's that show called now? Armani and Edwards with Maz. I mean, I think it was like the bottom line before, but shout out to him. They basically told the Pistons, this is a hockey arena, and we don't want Pistons memorabilia, Pistons statues in our arena. Terry basically called them attendant, and I died laughing when he said that, but it's 100% true. I don't think it's so much that they don't want an Isaiah Thomas statue done in Detroit. I think it's more of the Illiches want to keep Little Caesars Arena a hockey arena, and you can use our arena since you want to be downtown, and you can help us pay off this debt faster for this beautiful arena. But you're not going to have any type of statues in or outside of our building because it's our building. It's just it's an Illich problem. I don't even think it's like they don't want the Pistons down there. I think they want to keep everything just Red Wings.
I don't like that. I don't like that, because even if the Pistons are tenants, like Terry Foster said, it's still their house. It's still their house. Like that. When I think of Little Caesars Arena, I think of the Detroit Pistons. I don't think of the Red Wings. And when I think of the Red Wings, I think of Joe Louis. I mean, that might upset a few people when I say that about LCA, but I only go there for Pistons games. So if I'm a fan, I should get to see some Pistons memorabilia. And Isaiah Thomas is a Detroit legend. You would think there wouldn't be like this, man, I can't even think of the word, but like this almost like battle for like territory between the Detroit teams. Like, you would think that they would, especially if they're sharing an arena, they would want to share in the history for all the fans. Because I'm sure there are Red Wings fans that go there and are like, oh, cool, an Isaiah Thomas statue. They're not going to be offended by that. But I'm more offended that you don't want anything to do with the Pistons in that arena. I'm more offended by that. That's a slight.
I think it's more of a Chris Illich thing. I don't really know if him and Tom Gores have a good relationship. I do remember when LCA was being built, the Pistons still that season, they were still going to play at the Palace. And Tom Gores basically said, we want to be in Detroit. And he kind of just jumped on the wagon. To Chris Illich's point, like, that is their arena that they built at. When I do think of LCA, I do think of the Red Wings first, just because that's their arena. There's so much Red Wing stuff down there. There's a huge Gordie Howe statue down there. It's like made out of, I don't even know what it's made out of. It's freaking, it's beautiful. It's huge. But I believe a lot of Pistons fans, when they saw this, they want the Pistons to get out of LCA. They want the Pistons to, just build their own arena downtown. And I think eventually that will happen. I just don't know where. But I think when I saw this, a lot of fans were upset that, the news did come out because we were promised this 2 years ago, and they've kind of held it up. And Ellis is like, no, I don't want Isaiah Thomas statue at my hockey arena. Screw that.
I know you're saying it's a Red Wings arena, and I get it. I know why they built it, but I don't know. I never really got the impression that it was, a hockey arena, I guess. I don't know. Like when I walked in there, I guess I've never even noticed the Gordie Howe statue. That's kind of bad on me.
You've never seen it?
I honestly cannot picture it in my head, and I've been to LCA, 10 times. That is.
Yeah, I think it's it's either at the Comerica exit or the Huntington. I don't remember, but dude, it's huge. Like if they build Isaiah Thomas statue inside like they did with Gordie Howe, man, it would be amazing. But I don't know, man. A lot of Pistons fans to the point, like, they shouldn't have moved out of the Palace. Like the Palace was nice, it was beautiful, but I think the Pistons were going to leave the Palace eventually. It's just, Gore's kind of, hopped on Illich's, back saying, hey, like, let me move down here with you. So I can't really, fault him for that. But at the same time, to say that you don't want a statue and you just want to keep it a hockey arena, that's kind of shitty to me.
Yeah, I think that's insulting. That's what I'm saying. I think it's insulting. Why not even just build a Lego statue of Isaiah Thomas? So it's not even permanent. It's temporary. So when the Pistons do get their own arena, they can just take it with them. No harm, no foul. Do something for Isaiah Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby Pohl and Chuck Brewer said the Gordie statue was at the Joe. So they brought it from Joe Louis and they brought it to LCA. I mean, like I said, I think of that as a hockey arena because, I've been down there quite a bit. I mean, they freaking have a practice facility, a hockey rink on the second floor for them to practice there. So, I mean, I'd like to see the Pistons get out of there eventually, but I just don't know when that'll be.
What restaurant would you want the Pistons arena to be named after? Jets?
I don't know, man. Does it have to be a pizza?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it would be in Detroit.
I honestly, man, like, yeah, when I saw this news, because we had just talked about last month when we had Deuce on, like, which players would we have a statue at LCA, and now it's not even going to happen.
Yeah,
like,
I know.
It's crazy, man. I don't understand it. Honestly, it's just, I think it's a bad look for the Illiches and just the city of Detroit to not honor someone that won you 2 championships back to back.
Yeah, and like we were saying, it doesn't have to be a huge statue, and it can be a temporary one. Just bring it out during the season. If there's a big game, remove it. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think any hockey fan's going to be disappointed about seeing Isaiah Thomas, especially if you made the statue of him like just taking it down on Jordan. Don't even put Jordan's name in there. But that picture that's been circulating that we always see of Isaiah Thomas going like 5 feet in the air, just wrapping it up close, just bringing him down. Yeah, make that the statue. People won't complain about that.
Make him the statue of him walking out. I mean, that'd even be more petty. But like I said, I'm sure he'll have the Pistons will have an arena in Detroit. I just don't know where. A lot of people said move back to Cobo or something. I don't know, man. We'll see. I would tear down Tiger Stadium and just build there.
Wow, you just insulted a few people.
Dude, it's a relic.
No, I know. I'm just kidding. Eugene, dude, I don't even know how to say his last name.
It's Eugene Amariu, I think, or we're probably butchering it. Okay. The new 10-day. We'll just say that. The new 10-day guy.
Oh, let me try. Since you said his last name, let me try saying his last name. Eugene Omarui. That's what I'm going to say.
I think that's it.
Omarui signed a 10-day contract. Was he the guy wearing number 97 in their last game? Okay. I hope he makes it. He's like what, a 6'7" forward, kind of a tweener. What's his skill set?
He's more of a small forward. I believe he's 6'6". And it's funny, we're talking about Hamidou.
Yeah.
And like in the back of my brain, because you're like, yeah, I'd give him like 8 to 10 million. I was just like, oh, what if they're kind of anticipating Hamidou getting paid? And they're looking at this guy because he came from OKC. He was already in OKC. He played with Shea this year, and he's kind of shown potential of being a 3-and-D wing. He had a game against Toronto where he had 22 points and he was hitting his 3-pointers. He's a scrappy defensive guy that I think that has shown some promise. He just hasn't got a lot of burn in the NBA, but I don't really know what to expect out of him. But I did like his jersey number because I've never seen a Piston wear anything like higher than like maybe a 50.
Yeah, what was Amir? I felt like why do I think Amir Johnson's jersey was high?
I think it was in the 90s too.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember.
Okay, I'm going to throw a name out here for Eugene Omar. I can't even say his name anymore.
Just say Eugene.
Yeah, Eugene. I'm going to throw a name out here because this is what I was seeing when I saw him last night. PJ Tucker. I mean, we didn't see a lot. Just because I'm going off body type, and size, and the role I could envision that guy. I'm not going to call him PJ Tucker, but did you see, like, is that kind of the skill set he has, that 3-and-D type?
I wouldn't say he's like a lockdown defender like PJ Tucker was like in his prime, but like I think that's kind of like the wings that you need if the Pistons want to compete next year. Now, obviously, they're gonna probably go swing for the fences, try to get a Chris Middleton, try to get a Karis LeVert, try to get a Cam Johnson this summer. But I mean those are the type of wings that the Pistons need. That's the biggest hole on this team right now is we have wings, but we don't really have wings that can play defense and shoot threes. I think that's the missing piece of the puzzle to this team. And I said it, and some people called me delusional last night. But I think that's like the biggest thing. Like you have Isaiah Livers, and he hasn't really been too available. I know he sprained his ankle; he's already back, but it seems like every other game he's getting cooked.
Yep, dude.
On the defensive end, he tries. I love that he tries, but he's getting cooked every other game. He can hit his 3-pointers, but I think that's what the Pistons are really looking for, and I think that's why they kind of wanted to see what this kid's all about. Is he has that potential to be a 3-and-D wing, and maybe we see him on the cruise next year. Maybe we see him in the summer league. You really never know.
When I was watching him too, I was thinking like, man, this is a guy that if he could figure it out, he could probably play 3 through 5, depending on the lineup and the guys on the floor, right? Like he just seems like a type of dude that could just disrupt some guys. Like maybe not for long stretches, but I don't know. I was getting that PJ Tucker vibe of like just that scrapper, that guy that maybe doesn't play the same defense as PJ Tucker, but a similar archetype. That's what I was feeling with this guy, with Eugene.
Yeah, I kind of thought of it like, what if we lose Hamidou and we need another wing at the cheap?
This is the guy.
You never know. But that's just me kind of just like overreacting a little bit. I doubt it. I bet you Hamidou's on this team next year. They'll probably sign him to a cheap deal because everyone thought he was getting like that 3 for 30 and Troy got him for like 2 for 10.
It's crazy. We got some injury reports.
For sure.
This comes from Johnny Kane. It's early injury report for Monday. He says Bojan is out with a bilateral Achilles. That sucks. Jalen Duren is out with a bilateral. What does that mean? Bilateral. Isaiah Stewart's out with a right hip. Killian is questionable because of his left hand. I don't know what happened there. I know he got hurt in the last game. He came back out with tape on his hand. Ronnie Magruder's questionable with the left ankle, and James Wiseman's questionable with the left knee. Who are we playing tomorrow? I mean, I know the team. We're playing Trailblazers, but like player-wise, like we're down so many guys.
Yeah, it's just you saw this last year and the year before. It's March, and these injuries aren't really injuries.
No, I know they're for the tank.
You know what it is.
Yeah,
I mean, Bojan, I would probably say is the only one that's actually injured. Okay. And like it's funny because in the press conference he said he had a really bad calf injury, and then when I saw Achilles, I got nervous. And it's like a bilateral Achilles. So Casey plays him 40 minutes. Like I was like, bro, you tried to tear that thing? Like, what are you doing? But it's just that time of year where, we have a month of the season left. And these injury reports are just going to get longer and longer and longer. Because, you got Houston, you got San Antonio, you got Detroit, you got Charlotte. They're all trying to get that number 1 pick. All of them are trying to get better odds, trying to jump each other in the tankathon odds. I don't know who we're playing tomorrow, but I mean, we're versing Jeremy Grant and the Trailblazers tomorrow. So hopefully Dame doesn't go for 80.
So God, he was so close the other night. This is when Kojo probably just looks at this is his time of the season, right? This is Kojo's time of the year. Healthy, ready to go, 25 minutes a night, 18 shots, looking everybody off,
Oh
complaining
God,
to the refs when he's not going to go into
that play last night, dude, I was laughing. He went like 1-on-5 against the Cavs, and I'm
Okay.
like,
I tweeted out he plays like the guy at the rec center everybody hates. We all know people that play basketball like that. They are the worst people to play basketball with. They over dribble, always looking for their shot, and then complain when you don't pass it back. I love
oh
playing
man,
against those guys because they're very one dimensional. But Kojo, man, I don't know what he's doing. You think he just knows his? You think he's just like one of those veterans that's like, fuck it, let's just go out there and have some fun.
he's a good guy. It's just sometimes when he just over dribbles the basketball.
He
Like I
does.
think that's my biggest complaint with him is he just dribbles a lot. But I mean, when I saw that, dude, like I wasn't even mad. Like I'm just so numb to it that I just laugh when we make a mistake now. Like I'm not even mad that like we have 15 wins. Like I'm just like, dude, what the fuck?
It always happens too. There's when you see Kojo playing, there's always a play like that. Almost every game he plays in where he's just because he over dribbles all the time, but he's like over dribbling into the defense. Then he's like 8 feet out and then does a fadeaway and then looks at the ref like, dude, seriously, nothing. I'm 6 foot out here. Code.
Yeah.
I'm so ready. I'm gonna miss Corey Joseph when he's gone, but like, I'm not gonna miss the minutes he plays. I'm glad those are going to someone else someday.
Yeah, I don't know who's gonna be our vet point guard going into next year. It could be Killian as a backup option, but I mean, when I saw that play, man, like everybody's just like, dude, what the hell was that?
I know, dude. Kojo always giving us laughs. Dwayne Casey. If Dwayne Casey is the coach next season, does Troy Weaver's seat get hot?
I think he will be the coach next season. Just to be fair, finish out his contract. I don't think Troy Weaver's seat will be hot if Casey's still here. I think his seat will be hot if he makes bad signings. And he's been very cautious with the people that he's signed so far. I think you can go all the way back. Jeremy Grant has been his biggest acquisition.
Yep.
$20 million. He stays in between that $12 to $13 million price range. I mean, you can go Mason Plumlee, Kelly Olynyk, Marvin Bagley. Like, he doesn't really spend too much. And to be fair, he hasn't really had a whole lot of cap space to play with because if we do have a little bit of cap space, he usually trades for someone that he wants. Like he traded for Marvin Bagley. He traded for James Wiseman. He traded for Hamidou Diallo. He trades for guys that he wants because he doesn't want competition. So he uses his cap space that way. But if Casey's still here next year, I know fans are going to hate it. But I think you kind of look at the coaches that are available. Like if you wanted to make a move, Quinn Snyder was the guy. Like I told you a couple weeks ago, that was my guy. If the Pistons wanted to get a win now coach, Quinn Snyder was the guy. But now he's in Atlanta.
I'm going to answer this and say no, that his seat. I don't think Troy Weaver could do anything where his seat gets hot in the next couple of seasons. I think he's done so well as a GM, even if it's been questionable to some people. I think he has been given a long extension of grace from the Pistons organization, like from Tom Gores. Tom Gores isn't going to fire Troy Weaver anytime. He's going to trust this guy. If Coach Casey is back next season, yeah, it doesn't do anything for Troy Weaver. It doesn't. Like, he's done a good job as a GM. He has a longer leash of grace. There's nothing. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what Troy Weaver would have to. He'd have to have a couple bad drafts consecutively and a couple of bad off seasons, and for his seat to even get hot, even to get warm. I feel like he would have to have a couple of drafts consecutively, a couple bad off seasons.
This will be his third or fourth draft.
Fourth.
Yeah, I think 4 drafts is fine.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of get enough talent. I mean, the only guy that's not on your roster that you drafted is Saban Lee and Sadiq Bey, I believe, and Servetus, but that doesn't count.
Yeah,
but,
or Balsa.
But we still have his draft rights, though.
Okay, yeah, so he's still here.
Yeah, and he's still got, corporate not Cobra.
Gabriel
It's a
Procida.
Persida. You still got Persida that could come over next season. Yeah, I just think going into next season, you're going to see the Pistons actually try, and
Yeah.
they're not going to focus on development. You're going to hear a lot of press conferences of, we're trying to win. We're trying to win. We're trying to make the playoffs because, like, even though Casey has said they wanted to make the playoffs, it wasn't like serious. Like, it's just something to say to get the fans hype.
Yeah.
And then they get pissed.
Could you imagine a GM just comes out, he's like, dude, it's going to be like 6 years. Just put your seatbelt on. It's going to be a fun ride. Keep your hands in the vehicle. 6 seasons, we'll be back to the promised land, I promise. Yeah, I wasn't buying it when Troy Weaver said that. And I feel like the Pistons are they're still so far behind from some NBA, from like being a quality NBA team.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said before, like their building blocks are Cade, Jaden, and Jalen. Like those are the players you're going to build around. Everyone else is just, role players and complementary pieces. And we'll see what James Wiseman does turn into, but you have a core that you're building around now. And you possibly could get a top 5 pick this year and add another core piece that you could build. Like I said, I think this team is just going to be a team where there's a lot of long-term success. Like the way this team is built and constructed, this team could be, in the playoffs for the next 6 to 8 years.
That'd be nice. Yeah, it's kind of cool too because I feel like you're starting to see guys, the younger guys, figuring out their roles and knowing they're not going to be like the star of the team. Like they're going to play a secondary role just to ultimately help this team win. I feel like you're starting to see that from guys like Isaiah Livers, obviously, but like you're starting to see it from Isaiah Stewart, basically doing whatever the team needs him to do. Mm-hmm. You're kind of seeing it with Killian Hayes, I feel like, where, even though he is still out there taking shots and you want that, but it also seems like he knows, like, wait, this is Ivy's team. This is Cade's team. I got to be a complementary piece to them so we can go further. Like, I almost feel like you're seeing that with some of these guys.
Yeah, I mean, roles get defined.
Yeah.
I think in Killian's case, it's, he had one good month and he's kind of back down to the reality.
Yep.
And then he gets injured and it's just like,
it's that stupid meme over again where it's like the clock of Killian. Dude, as much as you don't want to believe it always fucking happens. It's crazy.
I mean, it gives RJ Hampton more time to shine, and he looked pretty good in a short amount of time last night. So happy for him.
Yeah. I cannot place who he reminds me of. He kind of reminds me of like a poor version of Bradley Beal, like, before Bradley Beal figured it out. Like, I don't know why I see that with RJ Hampton. I don't see Westbrook, but like for some reason I see a little bit of Bradley Beal. Not saying that's what he'll be, just again, the same type of archetype and same, similar skill set, I guess, just not as consistent or all-star player.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's like James Wiseman. He just he hasn't gotten the reps. Like I think he's even worse when we talk about him because like he really never got playing time. At least James Wiseman got a little bit of playing time. That guy has been bench warming for 2 years. Like, and it's not his fault. Like, it's a situation.
It's just crazy. Let's talk about our star guard, Jaden Ivy, getting passed over for Paolo Banchero for Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month. Look, dude, it kind of blew my mind they gave it to Paolo Banchero when he was shooting 3% from the three-point line when Jaden Ivy had increased his three-point percentage to almost 42% for that month, somewhere around there, maybe 40.
Yeah, he's been shooting 40% from three since January 29th.
And Paolo Banchero, his numbers dipped a little bit for that month. He was averaging 16 points per game. Jaden Ivey was averaging 16 points per game. I just thought Jaden Ivey had a better month. I thought he should have been recognized. I'm not asking for Rookie of the Year. I'm just asking for respect. And that's what Jaden Ivey deserves. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to believe that it's Detroit versus everybody, but damn it, dude, they keep pulling me back in with that. Because every time I say, dude, it's not. It can't be everybody versus Detroit. There's no way it is. But then when Paolo Banchero wins, I don't know why. He didn't have a better month than Jaden Ivey. I don't know what the Magic have done, but if we're just talking about strictly the performances of rookies, Jaden Ivey deserved it. And all I'm asking for is just a little respect for the city of Detroit and the Pistons organization and these young players who've been balling out. That's all I want. That's all I want. It's a lot, though.
Yeah, like I'll give a shout out to Trent, who's watching live on Facebook. He said it perfectly. Orlando's winning games, and that's what this award has turned into. It's a winning award. It's not individual stats, and I kind of touched on this on Twitter, where I said, I have no problems. I think Paolo Banchero is going to be the favorite to win Rookie of the Year, and I think deservedly so. He's had a very good rookie campaign, but when you're shooting 3% from three, you're 1 for 29 for the month. And Jaden Ivey's been shooting 40% from three since January 29th. So the entire month of February, he was shooting 40% from three. And the numbers are very comparable, but the Pistons aren't winning games. So the media kind of has their favorites that they kind of plant their flag in every year. I mean, they did it with Evan Mobley last year. And then they kind of switched the flip with Scotty Barnes very late into the season. But giving Jaden Ivey Rookie of the Month shouldn't change their narrative.
Exactly.
I mean, Josh Giddey won Rookie of the Month last year multiple times, but he wasn't a Rookie of the Year finalist. I think he finished like 5th. Giving Jaden Ivey Rookie of the Month wouldn't have hurt Paolo Banchero's rookie campaign. It really hasn't. I mean, there's been a lot of good rookies this year. Jalen Williams from OKC has emerged as of late. Walker Kessler is looking like a better player than Rudy Gobert, and that's freaking hilarious. Jaden Ivey, Benedict Mathurin,
Mark Williams.
Mark Williams, Shaedon Sharp has had flashes. Like, this is a very good rookie class, and I think what the media doesn't do themselves any favors is they plant their flag on their favorites, and they won't move off from it. And I think as voters, they shouldn't have so much tunnel vision, and they should kind of look around the league to see, like, okay, what is this guy doing? What is Jaden Ivey doing this month? What is, Benedict Mathurin doing off the bench for the Pacers? But they don't. They just have tunnel vision with their guy that they want to, vote for Rookie of the Year. And like a lot of these guys work at ESPN, Fox Sports, different radio stations. And I'm not, campaigning for him to win Rookie of the Year. I'm not. But it's like, come on, man. Like, you can't be so biased. The guy shot 3% from three. Like, how are you going to give him Rookie of the Month? Just because they're winning games? That's the criteria now, winning games?
Yeah.
So Rookie of the Year just doesn't matter. It's a team award. So everyone on the team wins Rookie of the Year because they're winning games. I just don't get it, man.
No.
It used to be an individual stat. Now it's a winning award.
Yeah, I hate it. And all I'm asking for is a little bit of respect for Jaden Ivey and the city of Detroit and the Pistons organization. Like, I don't think it's much. It seriously feels like the people that vote on this stuff don't watch Detroit basketball, man. It's a joke. I remember someone last year saying, LaMelo Ball is it. Cade Cunningham hasn't showed me anything. How many games did you watch of Cade Cunningham last year and where you came up with that conclusion? Because if it was just the game that you watched him against Charlotte when him and LaMelo first played, you hadn't watched Cade Cunningham for you to make that statement, for you to have that much confidence in what you're saying. It was disrespectful, and it's the same thing's happening to Jaden Ivey. I don't believe these dudes are watching the Detroit Pistons, and it's a shame. Yeah, it's not the best basketball. We were just making fun of Kojo like 5 minutes ago, dribbling 1-on-5. Mm-hmm. That's not the beautiful parts of this stuff. But to see Jaden Ivey, we all thought his jumper was like 2 years away. We didn't think he would be a consistent outside shooter this quickly, and he has developed, and that should be recognized. It's a shame that these dudes aren't watching the Detroit Pistons. You don't have to watch them every night. Just watch a couple of games. Like, they have a top 5 pick on their team, and you're not paying attention to them. It's so stupid. It's backwards. I sometimes hate the NBA for what they do.
I mean, when Blake Griffin was here, he barely got into the All-Star game.
Yeah.
And he led them to a 6th seed before he got injured. And he was putting up like career numbers.
Yep.
And the media kind of had to force to pay attention to Detroit. Like, Blake had to have a career year across the board for the media to even kind of pay attention to what the Pistons were doing. And I think that's the way it is because we're a smaller market. We're not the Lakers, we're not the Knicks. We don't get, 60 of our games nationally televised. We get one, and the one that we did get this year got canceled. Like, we don't really get any respect, but in the same breath, you have to realize that, the NBA is a business and the Pistons just aren't marketable right now because they're not winning games. And if you're not winning games, you're not winning the NBA money. And it's all a money thing with the NBA right now. And I just kind of feel like they've kind of gotten away from what made the NBA special, like growing up as a kid, like when David Stern was still the commissioner and not Adam Silver. And I hate the kind of, I got called an old head the other day, and I just turned 31 this weekend.
Oh,
I was like, bro, like I'm not an old head, but it's just the way the NBA is played now, and like, you know, everything off the court with like, you know, the Ja Morants and everything else. I'm just like, man, like NBA has changed so much over the past 10 years.
It really has. I felt like with Stern, it felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it always felt like teams, I never worried about teams. Like I always, like when people would say, oh, they're a small market team. Like when he was commissioner, I never felt like there really was a small market team. I didn't really, maybe I was just because I was younger and I didn't really look at things that way. I don't know. But I always feel like David Stern did a great job of, I don't know, recognizing the little guys, you know, like at least putting them at least a little bit in the spotlight. But with Adam Silver, it just seems like we're just going to market the star players and that's it. You know, it felt like the NBA became more about the individual and less about the team and the organizations.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand it from that standpoint. We've got like way off topic on this, but
Yeah,
like,
we did.
I've just kind of been thinking like, one of my buddies was like, dude, can you imagine if David Stern was still alive and Ja Morant was pulling the crap that he's pulling?
Dude.
And I was like, dude, he'd be in China.
It's crazy. Someone actually made a great point where they were talking about that's why you need veterans in the locker rooms. You know, that's why you and I have both talked about how valuable a Rodney McGruder can be at the end of your bench, because young guys listen to him, they look up to him, they want to be around him, like, and, you know, and he wants to be around them. Like there is some value to have that. And, you know, it sucks for Ja Morant, man. Like I hope he understands the opportunity in front of himself and doesn't squander it, man, because he's truly a great player, and having him available to play games and, you know, to be one of those next young players to take the throne from some of the older players, you know, you want him to be there. You want to watch Ja Morant for the next decade playing basketball because he's an exciting player, man.
Yeah, I kind of found it funny that, I know we're like way off topic because I feel like we have to mention Ja Morant because that was like probably, you know, even though this is a Pistons podcast, we still like talking NBA. I saw someone share a graphic and it says Kyrie Irving suspended from Nike for sharing an Amazon link to a movie.
Yeah.
Ja Morant brings a gun to keep the contract. I'm like, man, like I'm not like the biggest Kyrie Irving fan, but the media just paints a picture of him and they just kept it. Like Kyrie Irving does so much good that you don't even hear about it. Like I just learned that he donated $40,000 to a bunch of kids in Africa, and they're gonna be able to like build a whole school and books. And ESPN didn't even touch that with a 10-foot pole because it doesn't fit their narrative.
And I mean, I know Kyrie Irving can be kind of a knucklehead with some of the things he says, but like, dude, the NBA did it. They drug his name through the mud, dude. They blackballed Chris Jackson. I'm saying this, I don't even want to try to say his name right now, and I apologize for that. But
people know who Chris Jackson is.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, but then they highlight Karl Malone at the All-Star game. Dude, it's so backwards, bro. It's so backwards. And I saw this joke where it was like, Nike's not suspending Ja Morant because the people that buy sneakers also love guns. And it's just like, damn, maybe that is the reason, because nobody's going to look at Ja Morant and be like, dude, that's his right. He's allowed to do that. I just think it's an immature thing to do what he did. That's it.
Yeah. The only person I saw defend him was Gilbert Arenas. And I'm not even going to touch that, but if you guys are bored, just look up Gilbert Arenas in the Washington Wizard days. But we can get on to the last topic of the show.
No, and I mean, I just want to say, like, I understand, dude. You're a professional athlete, dude. You're on TV. You have millions and millions of dollars. You know, I mean, you're going to want to surround yourself with the right people. And I don't know. I just feel like Ja Morant, I think he's going to figure it out. I think he's going to be all right, man. I'm rooting for him. Just like I'm rooting for Kyrie Irving, man. Even though he does say some stuff that, you know, I'm just like, why? Why did you say that? But,
yeah, but like,
guys,
I know before we get into this last NBA mock draft topic, Did you know Kyrie Irving sold the most Nike shoes out of LeBron James, Giannis, and Paul George?
I mean, he has a game that you want to play, man. You're a smaller player. You want to play like Kyrie Irving. I'm not surprised by that.
He had the number one selling shoe all across Nike. Um, and it's just because, like, some people said, they got rid of him because of his COVID stance. The Amazon link to the movie that he watched. It's like, dude, like, people are just, I don't know, man. Like, I like Kyrie as a person, and it's just some people that cover the sport do a very poor job of like reporting on like what they want to report and not report.
Yeah. Journalism means you tell the whole story. Don't tell me one small piece of it. You tell me the whole thing. That's your job. And you're doing a disservice to everybody when you're not reporting you can report on all the negative stuff about Kyrie Irving and Ja Morant, but then flip the script and let's hear about the positive stuff as well. Cause we both know they're doing something out there for people and for the community. So
100%, man. We can move on to this mock draft because I'm sure every Piston fan right now is spinning tankathon on the daily.
Dude, I'm seeing it all the time on Twitter. We're landing in the top 5. But Yahoo Sports had the Detroit Pistons drafting Brandon Miller and Derek Lively II in their recent mock draft. Dude, it's hard for me to I don't know. I got to hear more about Brandon Miller's story, but like if we're just talking about the basketball player going number 2 to Detroit, it makes the most sense. It's a great fit basketball wise, but character wise, there still seems some questions out there. But what about you? You drafting Brandon Miller at 2?
Yeah. So in this article by Yahoo Sports, they embedded his lawyers kind of like press release. So Brandon Miller, as of right now, he could get drafted if the NBA draft was tomorrow.
Okay.
Like, there's no link to anything that happened off the court with his teammate Darius Miles. Brandon Miller, as of right now, is a free man, and what he did wasn't illegal, and they settled it in court. So if the Pistons landed, in the top 3, he would be at the top of my board because to me, he's the best small forward in this draft class. He shoots the 3 ball at a very high rate at a 40% clip. He's got a nice handle. I told you he reminds me of a younger Danny Granger. I see a little bit of the Paul George comp with the handle, but he's just such a nice prospect. Like some Pistons fans are saying I would take him too. And like I said, that's a conversation that I see a lot of Pistons fans having. They would take him 2 over Scoot. And I think the way he's been playing lately, he's kind of putting that narrative as like Scoot could be at 3 just because of how good Brandon Miller has been playing lately.
Yeah, I was all in at Scoot at number 2, even with Ivy and Cade Cunningham, but he does Scoot does remind me of like, that Baron Davis type, like a big body guard. There was he has some explosion. Like he had a play where it reminded me of Derrick Rose. And I look at guys that he's being compared to, Derrick Rose, Westbrook, who are some of the other names out there that he's been being compared to? Ja Morant, I think.
Yeah, just like all those bouncy point guards.
2 of those guys have won MVPs. That play style, though, has not carried teams to NBA championships. That's kind of what I'm looking at. He's a very exciting player. I don't think he's the transcendent generational prospect that, I don't know, some people have thrown out there before. I think with time, a lot of us have started to move away from that. And I think this year, this draft it's not just about best available player. I think it does come down to fit. And I think Brandon Miller does fit. I mean, it gives you as great potential, and he also fits this team. So I think he would be the pick at number 2. I think it would be I think Pistons fans would actually be more upset with Scoot Henderson at number 2 instead of Brandon Miller at this point.
Yeah, you see a lot of questions because we'll get into this now then. Yeah. You see questions with, I think Scoot Henderson, he could go at 2. Brandon Miller could go at 2. I think Pistons fans' question is, okay, you get Scoot at 2. What the hell are we doing with these guards?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what are we going to do? Is there a world where they can all play? Yeah, but you're probably not winning a lot of games. Is there a world where they trade Jaden Ivy or Killian Hayes? Yes. I just don't think it's close. I think Jaden Ivy has more of a chance of being a superstar than Scoot does. And I think Scoot is very bouncy. He's athletic, but I question the shooting. Like, he's not a good perimeter shooter, but that could change. He could be like Jaden Ivy and shoot 40% from three. But man, like, I'm not ready to like call him generational because I think generational just kind of gets thrown out the window.
It does
so much by like, fans and, draft analysts, but I wouldn't be mad at Scoot with two. I would just question, like, what are you going to do with these guards? Because now you have four. Like, what are you going to do? You going to trade them? Are you going to try to package it? Are you going to try to package Scoot and, try to move down to three? Like, I don't know, man. It's a really tough conversation to have. And it's just, we're like 3 months away from the draft even happening, but man.
No, I said on one of our podcasts that I would take Scoot Henderson at number 2 no matter what. But then again, it's just like, but Jaden Ivy, he's established himself, man. I'm with you. I think Jaden Ivy could be a multiple-time All-Star. I don't know if I could throw him yet in the superstar. I don't think he has like the personality that makes you a superstar. Like, I define superstars if my mom knows who you are, because my mom does not watch basketball, you're a superstar. Like, my mom would talk about Steph Curry, and I'm like, how the hell do you know about Steph Curry? Just because his name's everywhere. I don't see that with Jaden Ivy, where his name is just everywhere. If my mom knows who Jaden Ivy is, yes, he is a superstar. But I don't see him. I see him being a very good player, and I still see him being a star of the NBA, and being a multiple-time All-Star. But I'm also going to pass on Scoot at number 2 because I think the Pistons are established in their backcourt. Even though we haven't seen a whole season of Cade Cunningham yet, we already know who he is. We already know how good he's going to be. We've seen the 23-7-7. Like, we know he can put those numbers up. And Jaden Ivy, I mean, he, like I said earlier, shooting 40% is a huge deal, especially now that he's finding his jump shot and it's developed so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're established. I think you can pass on Scoot Henderson and you don't regret it. I'll take Brandon Miller at 2 as long as, it's again, we already talked about it. I'm glad you cleared it up a little bit for me with the lawyer talk, so I won't get into that. But yeah, I would take Brandon Miller at 2 because I think he's very talented and I think he just fits this team. And that guy and his size and his skill set playing the 3 spot with Cade and Ivy, dude, you're gonna go much further than going 3 guards.
Yeah, I just think I wouldn't be surprised if Scoot is at 3. Because I think Brandon Miller is knocking on the door at being the second best prospect in this draft.
But are you saying that? Do you think are you just saying Scoot Henderson goes to 3 if the Pistons draft at 2, or are you saying he could go at 3 no matter who's drafting at 2?
I think it's dependent on who's in the top 5. But it wouldn't surprise me. Like, let's say a team like Orlando is at 2. I don't think they draft Scoot, because they already have guards. They have Jalen Suggs. They have Markelle Fultz. They probably go Brandon Miller because they need wings too. Like, it's all situational. But I think just the way he's been playing, I think, what is Alabama, like number 1 right now in the country? Like, it's crazy. They have the number, or like a top 5 team in college basketball, and you're leading them. I think March Madness will really tell you like what scouts and what teams think of him. Just because the kid's a special talent, and it's not taking anything away from Scoot Henderson playing in the G League. I think he's going to be a really good player. I told you about him. I think he's really explosive. He's a good ball handler. He kind of understands the game. It's slowed down for him at a very young age, but I don't know, man. It's tough. I think they're like 1A and 1B. And you kind of just pick your poison because they both have their strengths and they both have their weaknesses. And I just think if you're the Pistons, I think drafting 3 guards in 4 drafts, it's kind of like, what are we doing? Like, what's the
Lions move?
Yeah, and it's not to say Scoot's a bad player because he's a really great player, but it's just like, I hear people saying you can never have enough ball handlers. I think you can.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you're getting a ball handler with Brandon Miller. I mean, he's a good player. I don't know. I think Scoot Henderson's career kind of turns out to kind of be like Baron Davis's a little bit, where You saw the flashes of greatness, but there was a little bit too much meat left on the bones at the end of it all. But I would still think the Magic would take Scoot Henderson at number 2. Him and
Yeah, I
Suggs.
mean, they could. It's just, I think Brandon Miller has kind of entered that conversation where people are talking about it now. They're like, yeah, he might be the second best prospect behind Victor Wembanyama. And like in the beginning of the year, everyone's like, oh no, dude, it's Scoot. Like Brandon Miller's like maybe the 7th pick. But, as the college basketball season has gone on, you see him dropping these, 30-piece games, 40-piece games. Dropped a 40-piece game when all that investigation was going on. Talk about pressure. Like, I think, there's going to be a real conversation with him at 2. And I won't be surprised if he does get drafted at 2. I mean, I remember last year we were shocked when Jabari Smith was at 3.
Well, yeah, because we thought he was all going to go number 1.
Everyone thought he was the best prospect. Like there was conversations of like, Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, and then Jabari Smith is at 3 for the Rockets. And then everyone's stunned.
I wasn't. I thought that guy would drop even further, to be honest. Reminded me too. I won't even get into that. Yeah, I'm with you though, man. I just think a team will be enamored with Scoot Henderson's athleticism.
Oh yeah.
I just think it has to be the right team to draft Brandon Miller at 2. Because it's still a guards league. Like you still need that lead playmaker up front. You need someone like that. And I don't know. I just don't see a lot of teams passing on Scoot. But I think if the Pistons are drafting at 2, I think they draft Brandon Miller. It just makes the most sense. And he's still a very talented player. Like, again, you're not going to regret not on passing on Scoot Henderson if you're the Pistons, because you already have 2 established guards.
Yeah, like I low-key think Victor is going to one of the Texas teams. I think he's either going to be in Houston or he's either going to be in San Antonio. Houston. Just because I think he's such a phenom of a talent that the NBA is going to want to put him in a big market. They don't want to put him in a small market because then that's less dollars for them. They're going to put him in a big market.
Yeah, I think he goes to Houston, and then I think Scoot Henderson goes number 2 to the San Antonio Spurs.
Hey man, like that'd be crazy, but you never know. Pistons might get lucky and get 1, and we look like jackasses for talking about Brandon Miller for 30 minutes.
I don't. I hope it happens, but it just feels like Houston. Like I said it last podcast, and I said it when James was on. They have a thing for really tall, really skilled centers, and for some reason, Houston always gets the number 1 pick when these giants are available. This would be the moment where we would do a Pistons talk player of the win, but there are no wins, so we won't do that. Here is the schedule, the upcoming schedule. Tomorrow, or if you are listening to the podcast today, the Pistons will be hosting the Trailblazers. And then on looks like Tuesday, so they're gonna have a back-to-back. They're gonna be hosting the Washington Wizards. And then they host the Charlotte Hornets. And then they host the Indiana Pacers. So 4 home games this week. How many wins, if any, do you think the Pistons get this week?
0.
Yep, I'm with you. There's no way they win they win a game. We're just basically we're just trying to watch matchups at this point in the development of guys. What's the matchup you're looking forward to the most out of these 4 games?
I kind of want to see Shaedon Sharpe and Jaden Ivy go at it.
That's a good one. I want to see, hopefully Duren is healthy to go against Mark Williams when Charlotte's in town. That'd be really fun. I don't know, man. I also want to see Benedict Mathurin and Jaden Ivy guard each other. I want to see that. I'm just in it for a rookie match.
Yeah, I forgot Mathurin was talking shit to Jaden Ivy last time they played. I forgot about that.
That's not right. You don't talk shit to Jaden Ivy. Dude, how surprised were you that he called that timeout the other night?
Not too surprised. I think the pressure just got to him. I know a lot of people made jokes about it, especially it being Chris Webber's birthday, which is kind of funny.
I made a joke like that.
Like the irony of it. But I mean, hey, he had a really good game. It's just I actually thought they were going to win that game because like the Bulls were just being the Bulls,
Yeah.
like not playing any defense. Patrick Beverly damn near like wanted to choke out Vucevic. It was really funny. I don't know if you saw those two fighting.
No, I did not see that. I mean, I saw Vucevic. He was getting not in the face of someone, but kind of like talking a little bit. But I don't remember when that was at during the game.
Yeah.
We have any Q&A questions?
Yeah, we do. Some people think that I believe that the NBA is rigged because I said Victor's going to one of the Texas teams. I didn't believe that until I watched a video on YouTube of an NBA YouTuber, and he was kind of saying like 2% of the population in Houston is French.
Get the heck out of here.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, it's over like 100,000 people in Houston are French. And it's just like, man.
Yeah, but what about the conspiracy of the Pistons playing a game in France this past season?
Not really a conspiracy. I just think the Pistons were like, yo, there's a French prospect. Let's go to France. Try to like, Well, and then Victor says, I don't like tanking. So it's just like, he like basically blatantly said, he's like, I think it's weird that teams are tanking for me. He's like, you should try to win.
Damn. That's kind of like telling a little bit. Like whatever team drafts him, seems like you're not going to have him there for a long time. Like he's just going to want to go to a winning organization at some point.
Yeah, like
it's weird.
Like this is like my thing. Like David Stern and the Patrick Ewing draft. Like I don't want to say it's going to be the same thing, but like because they have like envelopes now. Because it used to be ping pong, now they have envelopes. But like I don't know, man. Like I hope the NBA rewards Victor to a team that deserves it. I think the Pistons deserve it. It's just I would be really shocked if that happened. It's just because I've watched so many draft lotteries of us falling to 5 or falling to 8 or falling to 7 or a team like jumping us, like the Kings jumping us last year. That's just like it happens all the time. Like, dude, the freaking Pelicans could jump up to 1.
Dude, if they get the number 1 pick, I'm going to be very disappointed. They don't deserve another one. They've already had too many. It's crazy, dude. Charlotte has not gotten one yet, though.
Yeah.
The NBA, they almost had Anthony Davis, but they gave him to New Orleans. That was another controversy, though, another conspiracy, because the New Orleans Pelicans were owned by the NBA at that time, and they were trying to make it a profitable organization. So they gave him Anthony Davis. Yeah, I think the NBA does that sometimes. I don't think they do it in every draft, but I think when there's like a once in a generation type prospect, they are trying to find the perfect home for him. I mean, you can't tell me Cleveland, it was just luck of the ping pong balls they got LeBron James. It was just keep getting, or Chicago getting conveniently winning the number 1 overall pick when Derrick Rose was available. Come on. NBA had something to do with that.
Yeah, it's just like I said, I'd be extremely happy if Victor's here in Detroit.
Oh, that's
like,
safe.
Don't get me wrong. It's just like Cade Cunningham was the 2nd first overall draft pick in 50 years for the Pistons. Is the NBA going to make us wait another 50 years?
Oh. Dude,
yeah, like you said, Charlotte. Like Charlotte hasn't really had a first overall pick.
Okay. How if the Pistons got the number 1 overall pick this year, how long would you want the next drought to be before the next first round pick, the next number 1 overall pick? Like how many years would you be willing to wait if they gifted us Victor Wembanyama? 50 years? Is Victor Wembanyama worth 50 years of not getting the number 1 overall pick?
Because I feel like we'll be good for like a good 10. I mean, I would probably wait like maybe 20 years.
Okay, that's fair. 20 years for Victor Wembanyama.
Maybe 20, 30 years. Yeah, I mean, like, dude, he just does stuff like, dude, he could play small forward. That's how like talented he is. Like, could you imagine like Victor at the 3, Stewart at the 4, and like Dern or Wiseman at the 5?
Yeah, or like how Cleveland was playing Lauri Markkanen with Evan Mobley and Jared Allen.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I will get to the Q&A because I know I kind of went into like a rabbit hole with conspiracy theories, and everyone's just like, dude, like, how are you a Pistons podcast and you don't think we're getting Victor? Like, I try to be as positive as possible, but it's just sometimes when I see Pistons fans swapping, Victor and Pistons jerseys, like, you guys did that so much during the LaMelo draft that we fell to 7. Like, that's why I haven't like really shared anything like in Victor, like in a Pistons jersey, because I'm just like trying to keep the good vibes, man. Like, it's like last time we did that with LaMelo, like we fell to 7. I was like, damn it. Oh man.
It's first Q&A.
Yeah, so this comes from Billy Bands. Shout out to Billy. See him on Twitter all the time. If the Pistons get Scoot, would y'all see Killian getting traded?
Yes.
Yeah, I could trade it or waived. I think waived is actually more appropriate. I don't know what his trade market is.
Yeah.
Maybe a second.
I mean, I think if I don't know, I could even see Killian getting traded regardless, even if they don't draft Scoot Henderson. I don't know. It seems like you might need to change the scenery. Yeah, I would think you'd have to. It'd probably be one. Again, we've talked about this before. It'd probably be one of those trades where you have to package him with someone, or you got to take on
salary. Yeah,
you got to take on salary to get rid of him. So being waived though, that'd be interesting. That would be really interesting. I don't know, man. Troy Weaver is a robot, so maybe he does just waive him with no emotion. But I don't know. I think Troy Weaver has a soft spot for Killian. I think they try to move him in a trade.
Yeah, I mean that was his first round draft pick. I find it hard to believe that he has trade value. I mean, like, yeah, we traded James Wiseman for Saddiq Bey, and Saddiq Bey only netted 4 second rounders. And like, to me, I think Saddiq Bey was probably your second best player out of that draft.
Yep.
Like, what does Isaiah Stewart get you? Probably not a first.
No, probably gets you a similar. I don't know what he gets you. Probably
that. And Killian's not doing himself any favors with this play as of late of getting any kind of capital. Like you said, you're probably going to have to take on an atrocious contract, or just see if a contender wants them. Maybe you get a second and a role player.
I could see a team like San Antonio. They've had luck with French point guards. Tony Parker. You never.
Yeah. Who knows, man? Another conspiracy theory.
Oh my gosh. He just goes to San Antonio and just balls out. I'd be happy for him, but I'd be a little pissed off.
Yeah, I don't know. Thanks for the question, Billy. We appreciate it. We got a question from William Green. He asks, can Wise and Duren play together?
I think defensively they could. I think offensively it really depends. I mean, James Wiseman has a little bit of touch from outside, not really outside to the 3-point line like consistently, but I don't know. He can hit a 12 to 15 foot jumper. You just want him to be a little bit more consistent. It's not the best pairing in the world, and I would need to see more of him and what kind of steps developmental wise James Wiseman takes. Because I think it's more of, can Wiseman play with Duren? Because I think this is still Duren's team at the 5. Mm-hmm. So I think Wiseman would have to. I think it's more of a question: can Wiseman change his game to fit to play with Duren? But I think defensively they're all right. Athletically, they just don't give you enough spacing right now.
Yeah, I mean, like Troy had mentioned Cleveland, and like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen don't space the floor at all.
Yeah,
and they're able to play 2 bigs because they have the wings and they have Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland.
Yep.
I think we have potential in our guards with Jaden Ivy and Katie Cunningham because I think they're great passers. We just don't have the wings yet. I think they can play together, but I just don't know. Like, is it a full-time starting lineup? Probably not. It's probably only a starting lineup when you play bigger teams like Cleveland, like Milwaukee, like Boston. the teams that have a bigger front court. I think that's another reason why Troy did trade for Wiseman is because he's looking towards the teams at the top of the Eastern Conference that have more size. So he's trying to get 3 steps ahead of when the Pistons are ready to compete. They don't have to worry about trying to get a center, because they'll have one under contract. So I think they can play together. I just don't think it's going to be like an everyday lineup.
I like that you pointed out the guard play. I think that's very important because Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland definitely stretch the defense where having, Jared Allen and Evan Mobley out there isn't really a deficit. So, yeah, I think it could work.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Troy basically said, why he traded for Wiseman is just to have more size when we go up against bigger teams like that. So this question comes from SJ. Shout out to SJ. He's usually always in a live stream. Do you think the Pistons will pursue Bridges this offseason?
Were they close to? I mean, has his name been linked to Detroit other than like fans putting his name out there?
I saw reporting that the Lakers and the Pistons were the only 2 teams that were doing their due diligence to see what had transpired with Miles Bridges and off the court stuff. I know there was a rumor that he could possibly come back this month. I don't know how true those rumors are, but I think he will be back in the NBA next season. I just don't know if it's going to be in a Pistons uniform. It may be with the Lakers.
No, I don't think the Pistons pursue him anyways. Like, I don't know. I haven't seen him play in a while. I haven't even really checked his numbers. Like, was he a pretty consistent 3-point shooter? Had he developed that part of his game?
I mean, he was decent. Him and LaMelo had a really nice two-man game. But like I said, I thought he was a nice player. I know the Pistons were rumored to go after him this summer, but he had all that off-the-court stuff happen, and then that kind of was, Pistons decided not to do that. But, I mean, if you're signing him for a cheap deal, I mean, do you entertain it?
I mean, he's a good athlete. I don't think he's the elite athlete a lot of people put him in. A lot of people put him in that elite athlete category, and I don't think he's like elite of the elite. You know what I'm saying? It's not like in that top 1%. He shot 33% from the 3-point line last season on 6 3-pointers. So shot 40% the year before on less attempts. But I don't know. I think Miles Bridges is, I've said this before, I just think he plays better with a point guard like LaMelo, who's always looking to feed him and put him in those right spots. It's not to say Jaden Ivy and Cade can't, but they're also going to be hunting for their own shot. So, like, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just one of those things. And I've said it before, like, what else does Miles Bridges bring to your team if he's not scoring the basketball? Because he was a 20-point scorer last season when he played, but 7 rebounds, 4 assists. They played a pretty fast pace that year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where he plays. Like, do you play him at the 4 or do you play him at the 3?
I think he's more efficient at the 3. But like, to your point, like when we had Josh Jackson here a few years ago, we didn't give him a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But he's coming off the bench. I think that's probably what will happen with Miles Bridges. I'm pretty sure Charlotte actually renounced his rights to sign him to a new contract.
Okay.
So he can basically sign wherever he wants. But like I said, I heard a report that he could be coming back in March. Maybe some contending teams look at him. But if that doesn't happen, you'll probably see his name this summer with teams trying to go after him because he's trying to get back into the league.
Yeah.
I mean, like what he did, I don't really think, because there's been more reports out that, like, he actually didn't hit his wife. His wife actually instigated a lot of it. Throwing bricks through his house to get into the house, like being like really crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't, if I'm the Pistons, I might stay away from that.
I mean, I think he's still a good player. Again, I don't know. Maybe 27-4 was the best season you get from him. I don't know what kind of player he could be, but I would entertain it, for the right price. If he wants to come in here and do a prove it deal and, not be given anything and, being put in a position to earn his way back into the rotation, yeah, I would entertain it. I just don't know what he brings to the team outside of scoring.
Yeah, I think the Pistons are to the point where, you know, we've taken enough flyers on project players. I think we need to take flyers on players that know how to win.
That's fair.
Yeah. So there's that. This is a question from Tony. Tony always has good questions. What do you guys think of Marvin Bagley now? It's not like he had a chance to play until now. Is his defense improved or is this a blimp?
I think we're watching a guy know that his time is up on a team, and he is just now more motivated to prove that he is A, worth that contract, and A, or B, worth a few more looks to see that he could be a part of this team long term. I just think he's playing motivated basketball, man. That's just what it looks like to me. Like, he looks like a guy that is playing with a sense of urgency, like his back is up against the wall and he has to prove himself again.
Yeah, I kind of think when you brought in James Wiseman, it lit a fire under him.
Yep.
Because he's just put together games where it seems like every other game he's got 20 and 10.
It's the effort, man. I tweeted about it. I loved his effort on the glass last night. You weren't getting double-digit rebounds from him until the James Wiseman trade. I just think he's motivated, like we're saying. Like, a fire has been lit underneath him, and he knows he only has so much time to prove his worth to this team.
Yeah, I think iron sharpens iron, and I think they go at it in practice. I mean, I believe Mike Curtis had posted a video this past week saying that they were playing one-on-one and going at it for like 20 minutes. I think they feed off each other, and I think it's good for Marvin Bagley and good for the Pistons because, you know, last month we were talking about that contract and saying how untradeable it is. And,
Yep.
you know, a $12 million contract for Marvin Bagley is a lot of money. But, you know, if he keeps putting the, you know, games together like that, he kind of raises his trade value because there are going to be teams around the NBA saying, like, the Pistons got a 20 and 10 guy on their bench right now.
Yep.
Like, I'm just so happy for him, man, because, you know, he's had so many injuries this year, and it seems like every time he comes back, puts up good numbers, then he gets injured for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I hope he's healthy for the remainder of the season. I do not want to see him go down again. I even tweeted out, dude, I was all for Marvin Bagley putting the Pistons on his back and leading him out of the deficit. I wanted Marvin Bagley to take all the shots last night just because I was so impressed with his effort on the glass. I'm like, reward this man. Reward him with shots, please.
Yeah, I mean, he's done great. I think there's been maybe only one game, I think, over the past week since he's come back where he didn't put up double-digit numbers. And, like, doing it against Cleveland that has the two bigs, I think, is even more impressive.
Yes.
Because you have Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, who's been kind of, like, categorized as this generational defender. And he's finishing over Evan Mobley. He's going at Jared Allen, who's a good, you know, rim protector. So I'm happy for him, man. I honestly am.
By the way, Old Takes Exposed never retweeted my tweet.
Yeah, count your days, man.
One day.
That is, I have been tweeted by them, and it's just, it's funny.
Embarrassing? Is it
embarrassing? I could tell you the tweet.
What was the tweet?
So me and Piston Thoughts, where we were talking about Andre Drummond in 2015.
Yeah.
And this was when Jaylen Brown was like maybe averaging like 10 points a game. And people are like, oh, yeah, you got to give Jaylen Brown like $30 million. And me and him were like, dude, I'd rather pay Andre Drummond the money than Jaylen Brown. Both of us did not see Jaylen Brown becoming like, you know, 1A to 1B to Jason Tatum and being a superstar. Like we thought Andre Drummond was, you know, going to develop more. And we were both freaking dead wrong. And we get quote tweeted, but not only Old Takes Exposed, but Hot Take Empire, like all these hot takes we got like tweeted at, man. And it went on for like, I don't know, like maybe 2 weeks.
I was actually, I had actually tweeted inside that same conversation with you guys. I don't think I tweeted at you though, but I had said something to him about like, you can find players like Jaylen Brown every offseason in free agency. Andre Drummond is like one of one or something like that. It was a stupid tweet. I did not get it like you guys did. I had a couple Boston fans just calling me an idiot. That's it. But dude, it was like, yeah, like you were saying, it was like 2015 when those tweets were out.
Yeah. So we'll do one more question. This does come from Facebook. Comes from Trent. Shout out to Trent. He said, "Okay, I got a question. Do you ever see Cade Cunningham leading this team to a championship in the next 8 to 10 years as a leader and the best player on the team? Like, no bringing a vet star, but just building it the right way and not rushing it."
Yeah, I think Cade Cunningham has the game and the IQ to be a leader of a team. I don't think you're ever going to see superstar numbers from him. I don't think you're ever going to see I don't think he's going to put up Luka Doncic numbers, but he could. But does that help you win playoff games? Does that help you win championships? The jury's still out on Luka Doncic, but I think with Cade Cunningham, high IQ, high skill level, trying to get people involved, puts the team before his own individual numbers. Yeah, I definitely think Cade Cunningham could lead a team to a championship. Is it in Detroit? I hope so. Hopefully they build the right team around him, and hopefully they don't depend on him like Dallas depends on Luka, though. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a heliocentric offense around Cade. I like the more motion stuff where he can play off other people and other people can play off of him. But yeah, again, to answer your question, I do think Cade Cunningham can be the focal point of a championship team.
Yeah, I would say I think what makes Cade so special is he's willing to sacrifice his game to make his teammates better. And I think he's that type of player. He's very unselfish. Do I see him, winning a championship, being, the guy in the next 8 to 10 years? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do think he's going to put us in playoff contention when this team is finally built, when they finally have veterans that, make sense for this team. We add more 3-and-D wings, Jaden Ivy matures, this year's draft pick that we get matures, Isaiah Stewart, comes into his own, gets into his prime. I think Cade Cunningham will be the guy in Detroit for multiple years because I think he likes it here. I think, Detroit is home to him. And I think he's just a guy that a lot of people like, not only his teammates, but just, coaches. And he's a very smart basketball player. We're in year 2 and his first month, he was putting up 27-7, which is ridiculous, man. People forget that he was putting up 27-7 and people are calling him a bust and people are calling him, oh, hey, he's going to go third in a redraft because of recency bias. This guy is going to put the Pistons back on the map. I know I sound like the biggest homer right now, but I believe in so much in Cade Cunningham that we're going to be a playing team next year. I honestly believe that. I will say it right now. You put me on Old Take Exposed again. I don't give a shit. I think Cade Cunningham will lead the Detroit Pistons at least into a play-in.
I definitely see that happening. They're going to be I don't know about. I just got to see this draft, man. Just got to see this draft, and then I'll make my take on that. But I do see Cade Cunningham being that guy. And I think the Pistons are building a quality team around him where it's reminding me of just different pieces of the Bad Boys teams, how they were built and how the Going to Work squad was. I mean, I know this is more through the draft, but it's all the pieces are really starting to come together. Even though they're not coming into wins yet, it just you can see the vision Troy Weaver has laid before us. You can see the end of the race. And I think that Cade Cunningham does do it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, Tony said it perfectly. Not in his game, but his character. Cade reminds me of Chauncey.
Ooh, that's awesome.
100% agree with that. Just his demeanor, the way he kind of answers questions. He's a team leader. He's always looking team first instead of me first. And I think that's what you need out of a leader.
Yep, definitely.
But you guys, we've almost been on for 2 hours. We've had 70 plus people on for almost 2 hours on a Sunday night at 9:00 at night. I know some of you guys have work or school in the morning. We do appreciate that so much. But what we do ask is you support the podcast And Lance is going to tell you where you guys can go support the podcast and give him a follow on Twitter. Get him up to at least 900.
Dude, give me up to 875 by tonight. That's all I want. Give me 2 more people. That's all I want. All right. Thank you guys for listening to the Pistons Talk podcast. Do us a favor. Go to Google, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts and subscribe. Seriously, you'll be helping us out. After you subscribe, leave a review, drop a rating. But more importantly, you already know what to do. Tell a Pistons fan.
Peace, you guys.